I'm smoking with the boys. Let's make my first ever smoked brisket. You better sign me up. She juicy, juicy. The first thing we want to do is trim down all this fat. Yeah, you do want to keep some of it on, but there's so much just like this. So it is really wise to just trim it down. You don't want to throw this extra fat away. You could render it down and melt it to make some beautiful beef tallow. And if you don't want to do that, you could always freeze it and just use it in future recipes because it has great flavor. There's two parts of a brisket. You have the thick portion, which is the point, and then you have the thin piece, which is the flat. On the flat portion, I do want to keep a little bit of that fat just because there's not much fat in the intermuscular tissue, and because it's thinner, it'll cook a little bit faster, so we want a protective layer basically. Anyways, I'm gonna flip this over, and on this side, I'm gonna be removing some of that silver skin, as well as the rest of this fat. So I took my time and I slowly hacked out all that fat, just because I don't want to stab through and waste any of that meat. And this is how much of that fat was left over. It's probably 1 or 2 pounds, which is a lot. For a binder, I'm gonna opt in for some Worcestershire sauce. I'm gonna go very light, and I'm just gonna give it a nice little light massage. A binder simply means a liquid that is applied to the meat, which just helps seasoning stick to it. Now, if Worcestershire is not something that you are used to seeing as a binder, make your own brisket. This is just what I'm a fan of doing. I'm gonna simply hit the brisket with some salt, pepper, and garlic. You should be extremely generous with whatever seasoning you're using because it is nice and thick, and try to equally distribute it and just pat it in. I'm gonna let the brisket sit in the fridge for a couple hours. I really want the seasoning to stick and really soak into that meat, and then we'll be off to the smoker. Okay, it's the next morning and I literally just woke up, eyes puffy and all, but we gotta get this bad boy in the smoker as soon as possible. Traeger did send me some of the rub, so that's why there's a black rub on here now, and now we just gotta toss it into this beautiful smoker. You really want to keep an eye on the temperature. So we're gonna stick our meat probe in the thickest part of the brisket, and the homies at Traeger did send me their new Timberline XL, and this thing is simply a beast. You got the smoker set at 200, and now we toss it in the smoker. Low and slow, we're cooking it at 200 degrees, and we're going for 165 internal for now. Okay, finally, it's been officially 9 hours. It smells delicious, and it's around 160 degrees. We're gonna place it onto our aluminum foil. This smells absolutely incredible. I also got my Bluetooth thermometer in, and I'm just gonna tightly wrap it. And before I fully seal it, I'm gonna be covering it with a little bit of beef stock. This is gonna go back into the smoker at 250, and we're gonna cook it until 200 internal Fahrenheit. This is probably why I don't barbecue, because it does take forever. But the results better be worth it. It has been 12 grueling hours, and I am absolutely starving. Make sure you let it rest for at least an hour. You want it to reabsorb all that beautiful juice, just so when you slice into it, it doesn't bleed out and leak out all that beautiful flavor. And this is because I have no feelings in my hand. Ow. It's smoky and beautiful, and it's time to slice right in. You want pencil thick slices. Nice and juicy. There's a beautiful smoke ring, and it has a decent fold like this. Does it pull apart? Very nice and beautiful. And I think for the first time, this just came out fantastic. And now for the official, honest verdict. And as always, now bismillah. It's definitely not the best brisket in the world. It is super tender and super flavorful. And overall, I am very satisfied with it. But I do wish it was a tiny bit more juicy and tender. And I wish it had a little bit more flavor. Overall, I'd give myself a 7.5 out of 10. Super smoky and delicious, but just needs a little bit of work. Keep in mind, I did cut from the thin side, which is the true test to make sure that you have good brisket. I'll be honest, I'm super excited to smoke more meat because it is truly a different art. It's time we become pit masters.